Did you catch the latest WNBA player rankings? Because if you haven't, you are in for a wild ride. It's already being called the most outrageous ranking in league history, and trust me, that's not an exaggeration. The WNBA media machine is at it again, seemingly throwing shade at none other than Caitlin Clark. But hold up, because veteran analyst Rachel Demita is stepping into the ring, and she is absolutely not letting this slide.
Bleacher Report just released their top 20 WNBA player rankings ahead of the 2025 season. So who's in the top 5? Number 1, A'ja Wilson. Number 2, Napheesa Collier. Number 3, Breanna Stewart. Number 4, Alyssa Thomas. And number 5, Caitlin.
The NBA player list dropped and jaws are hitting the floor. They somehow managed to completely overlook Caitlin Clark's monumental achievements from last season, slotting her in at a measly number 5. Number 5, are you kidding me? It's almost unbelievable how hard the legacy media is working to tarnish Clark's reputation and accomplishments. But Rachel Demita? She's not having any of it. She's pulling out the receipts, ready to expose this so-called ranking for what it truly is. Get ready, because this is going to be explosive.
Nonetheless, the conversations around Caitlin Clark are reminiscent of crash outs, very often completely out of proportion to the reality of this point. But it is strange to see them continue with such passion, and really all they are is an indication of Caitlin Clark's motion and popularity.
Rachel Demita is laying it all out, and she's right. Last year, Caitlin Clark was a solid number 4 in the MVP rankings. So how, in the blink of an eye, does she suddenly plummet to 5th? It just doesn't compute, especially when you see who they've placed above her, Alyssa Thomas. Now, no disrespect to Alyssa, she's a veteran, a solid player. But let's be brutally honest, her last season was, well, let's just say mediocre is being kind. Anyone who genuinely believes Alyssa Thomas is currently better than Caitlin Clark either doesn't understand basketball or is just flat out blinded by bias. It's that simple.
Let's talk about this top 5 because I don't love it. As you can probably guess, I don't love it. Caitlin Clark at 5 is crazy to me, and it's crazy to me just off the rip because if we look at the MVP voting from last season, she was number 4 in MVP voting. It was A'ja, Napheesa, Breanna, and then Caitlin. I don't know how she slides down into the number 5 spot, especially behind Alyssa Thomas.
This whole idea that Clark isn't top 5 material, it's not just pathetic, it's revealing. It's screaming that she doesn't fit some predetermined narrative. Because the truth? Clark has it all. We're talking blistering speed, raw strength, hand-eye coordination that's off the charts, and let's not even begin on that cannon she calls an arm. Her athleticism isn't just good, it's in another dimension, and that's precisely why she dominates the court the way she does. It's not luck, it's pure, unadulterated talent.
Alyssa Thomas is a veteran getting older in this league, and Caitlin Clark is only going into her 2nd season. She is also not coming off of a college season. She essentially played an NBA season last year of the amount of games that she played. She has had an entire offseason to get stronger, to get ready for the 2nd WNBA season. She was getting double and triple teamed last season, face guarded, on here, and she was still in the top 4 of MVP voting and still broke so many records as a rookie.
Caitlin Clark at number 5, chilling behind Alyssa Thomas? Nope, someone needs to recalculate those numbers because this ranking is insulting. Again, Alyssa Thomas is a vet. Respect, but reality check, she's not getting any younger. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is just igniting. She's heading into her 2nd WNBA season stronger, smarter, and frankly, even more dangerous. Last season wasn't just about her holding her own, she was taking over games, bending defenses to her will. And now, she's had a whole offseason to level up, to fine-tune every aspect of her game, and to lock in with her teammates. Translation? Disaster is looming for anyone who dares to face her.
Caitlin Clark has really made a point to change her appearance and put on some mass and put on some real muscle. And let's be real here, she got the crap kicked out of her last year. She got physically mauled at times. All right, now she may be thinking, look, if they're not going to call these flagrant fouls and they're going to let everybody in the league beat the crap out of me, I better do something to put on some mass to protect myself.
Think about last season for a second. Rival teams weren't just guarding Clark, they were face guarding her, double teaming her, sometimes even triple teaming her. And amidst all that chaos, she still finished in the top 4 for MVP voting. So seriously, why the slide in the rankings? What more does she have to prove? If we're talking about real impact, about who's poised to explode this coming season, Clark should be rocketing up the list, not mysteriously dropping down. It's like they're intentionally trying to downplay what's undeniably coming.
So let's talk about why they put her at number 5. The writer says Clark was also somewhat tough to slot. Having a rookie ahead of multiple champions and MVPs feels like a case of too much too soon, and there aren't court quibbles to poke at. The turnover numbers, I knew this was coming, though explainable with coverage and degree of difficulty, context are still a lot. There is certainly growth needed defensively, particularly off the ball.
Okay, let's dissect the real reason they've buried Clark at number 5. The writer of this ranking claims she was tough to slot. Tough to slot? Apparently, ranking a rookie sensation ahead of multiple champions and MVPs is considered premature. Give me a break. And let's be brutally honest about those turnovers they keep harping on. Half of Caitlyn's turnovers weren't even her fault. A huge chunk of them happened because her teammates simply couldn't catch her passes. Seriously, she wasn't the problem. They were struggling to keep pace with her genius. Clark's passing is so precise, so next level, that it actually exposed her teammates' inability to keep up. She wasn't out there needing to elevate her game. She practically had to dial it down just to make sure the ball didn't end up in the stands.
As much as people harp on Caitlyn about turnovers and not having any rings, I just want to take this mic and bang it against my head if I hear someone else say that she hasn't won anything and that's why we can't label her as great. So LeBron goes in the league his first season and doesn't win an NBA title, and all of a sudden he can't be top 5.
Rachel Demita is spot on because their logic is utterly ridiculous. Caitlin Clark is already proving she's elite right now. It's not a future prediction, it's happening. And before long, even the loudest doubters, the most entrenched haters, won't have a single leg to stand on. Her talent is undeniable, her impact is measurable, and her trajectory is interstellar. They can try to bury her at number 5, but they can't bury the truth.
There is no one like Caitlin Clark in the history of the WNBA.
And yet, despite facing relentless defensive pressure, despite carrying an offensive load that would crush most players, she still put up historic numbers. But sure, let's fixate on the turnovers like they weren't a direct consequence of her single-handedly dragging an entire offense on her back. It's like criticizing a marathon runner for sweating when they're sprinting the entire race. The context is everything, and they're conveniently ignoring it.
Do this in any other sport, and we especially don't do it in basketball. We do not rank NBA players based on if they won in college or how many titles they had.
Then there's the tired no rings argument. Please, she just wrapped up her rookie season. Did anyone with a shred of common sense actually expect her to waltz into the league and single-handedly win a championship on day 1? That's not how basketball or any team sport works. It takes time, it takes team building, it takes chemistry. To hold a lack of championship rings against a rookie in their first season is not just unfair, it's fundamentally absurd. Meanwhile, plenty of veteran stars are still chasing rings and nobody holds it against them.
Maybe you get there at that point, but we do not do this, especially in their first year. So the fact that they're putting her at 5 just because other people have won championships is just a cop-out, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. Every single one of these points leveled against Clark is baseless, flimsy, and reeks of manufactured excuses. Rachel Demita isn't pulling any punches here, loudly and clearly proclaiming that these ratings are nothing more than a miserable cop-out. Because let's be brutally honest for a second. If I sat on the bench for an entire season, barely saw the court, and happened to be on a championship-winning team, does that suddenly make me a better player than Caitlin Clark? Winning a championship is a team accomplishment, not some individual badge of honor that automatically elevates one player above all others. Coaches preach it constantly. There is no I in team. This rings obsession is a lazy and frankly insulting way to evaluate individual talent.
I think that championships are definitely a team recognition. They are something that a team does together and accomplish as a player. And when you are ranking players, you are ranking them as an individual unit rather than a team.
Let's face facts. Caitlin Clark has been making seismic waves since her college days. She's not just good, she's a phenomenon. And in the WNBA right now, she's easily in the top 3, if not the outright best athlete in the entire league. Her impact transcends stats. It's about drawing eyes to the game, inspiring a new generation, and changing the very fabric of women's basketball. And number 5? That's not just a ranking. It's a blatant misrepresentation of her current standing and future potential.
There's only one person, two people in the top 5 who played during the offseason in Unrivaled, and that's Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. And if you're going by that, Breanna Stewart actually didn't do as well as a lot of people were expecting in Unrivaled, and she also didn't win. Like, I don't even think her team made playoffs. And again, I'm not holding that against her because it's a different type of game.
I completely agree with Rachel on this point. Their performance in exhibition events like Unrivaled shouldn't be used against them, but it definitely shouldn't be used to boost them either. Breanna Stewart, for example, didn't exactly set Unrivaled on fire the way many expected. Let's be real, she wasn't dominating, she wasn't in the MVP conversation in that tournament, and her team didn't even make the playoffs. And yet, somehow she's still ranked ahead of Caitlin Clark in these WNBA rankings. Make it make sense. It's like they're bending over backwards to justify a predetermined outcome.
But I think a lot of people were expecting Breanna Stewart to be in that MVP conversation in Unrivaled, and she wasn't. I don't think Breanna Stewart should be ahead of Caitlin, and I also don't think Alyssa Thomas should be ahead of Caitlin.
I couldn't agree more that a different format like 3-on-3 can produce wildly different results. But if we're not going to penalize players for underperforming in these side events, we sure as heck shouldn't be handing out unearned rewards based on them either. 3-on-3 basketball is not 5-on-5 basketball. Last time I checked, the WNBA doesn't play half-court pickup ball. If Unrivaled doesn't matter when a player underperforms, then it absolutely shouldn't matter when we're trying to hype them up either. So why is Breanna Stewart getting a pass, even a boost, while Caitlin Clark, who just delivered one of the most electrifying rookie seasons in WNBA history, is being inexplicably bumped down the rankings? The sheer inconsistency is mind-boggling, and it exposes the agenda behind these rankings.
When it comes to elevating your team, it's like, how much does that go into the MVP conversation? Are we just going to put these players' stats on paper and compare them in that sense? Or are we going to see how they're also impacting their team, elevating their teammates, and making their team better?
Let's cut through the noise and get to the core question. What even is the point of the MVP award if we're just blindly staring at stats and not actually paying attention to who is genuinely making their team better? Are we just out here playing calculator, robotically crunching numbers? Or are we supposed to be recognizing who is actually lifting their squad, elevating their teammates, and straight up changing the game itself? And honestly, Caitlin Clark is the rare player who is doing both. She's not just racking up insane numbers for her own personal glory, she's out there making a tangible, undeniable difference on the court and for her team. If that's not the essence of what an MVP should be about, then what in the world is?
I think it's a fine balance. I think it's a fine balance between the two. So it's a bit of a toss-up for me here with my top 3, because Nafisa Collier, we got to see her play during the offseason, and I thought she did incredible. I thought her game was elevated. Her footwork is absolutely unmatched. Caitlin Clark, we did not get to see during the offseason.
That's absolutely right. While many of the other players on this list were actively playing in the offseason, participating in tournaments like Unrivaled, Clark, on the other hand, was putting in grueling work in the gym, relentlessly improving her overall game. She wasn't chasing headlines in exhibition matches, she was focused on becoming an even more dominant force in the WNBA. Taking all of this into account, her rookie season performance, the offseason dedication, the undeniable impact, surely Caitlin Clark should be firmly planted in the top 3 conversation, right? Well, apparently, the mainstream media has a different script. In fact, this latest snub is not some isolated incident, it's just the latest chapter in a pattern. Remember back when ESPN tried to tarnish Clark's collegiate legacy, actively working to deny her a top spot in their college rankings? This isn't a new bias, it's a recurring theme.
So ESPN ranks the top 5 women's college basketball players of all time. And they leave Caitlin Clark off for the simple reason of not having a championship.
ESPN recently released a ranking of the best women's college basketball players, and in a move that defied logic and common sense, they conveniently left out the rookie sensation, Caitlin Clark, from the top spots. It was blatant shade throwing, ESPN attempting to diminish Clark's accomplishments, and it turned out to be one of the biggest miscalculations they've ever made. It backfired spectacularly, exposing their agenda for all to see.
What does it take to become a college basketball legend? Well, first, you got to get buckets. I think that's pretty undisputed. I think second, you got to be competitive, have that fire to drive your teammates, right? Third, but certainly not least, you got to win. And you got to win a lot.
According to ESPN's convoluted reasoning, Caitlin Clark was excluded from the top of their college rankings because she didn't win any championships at college. Just let that sink in for a moment. Caitlin Clark cemented her status as a legendary rookie, shattered records, and carried her Iowa team to unprecedented horizons, captivating the nation in the process. But still, ESPN remained unimpressed, even dismissive. On the contrary, it seemed like they were actively seeking to undermine her legacy as potentially the greatest collegiate player of all time. And to highlight their hypocrisy, they titled their video,
"Is Caitlin Clark the greatest of all time in college basketball?" But then when you click into the video, it says, "Let's rank the top 5 women's college basketball players of all time." Now, when they were ranking the top 5 women's college basketball players of all time, they actually did not include Caitlin Clark in that top 5 list.
That's right, ESPN shamelessly used her image as clickbait, plastering Caitlin Clark all over their video thumbnail while simultaneously excluding her from the top of their actual ranking. If that's not the definition of hypocrisy, I genuinely don't know what is. ESPN put Caitlin Clark front and center on their video thumbnail because even they are acutely aware that she is the most electrifying basketball player right now and undeniably the most popular among her peers. They know she drives clicks even as they try to diminish her achievements.
They went on here to talk about her accolades and say she's done so much for the sport and how, the scoring title and all the records that she broke. She went to the national championship game twice and went on and on about that. But the reason they excluded her from the top 5 is because she did not win a national title.
Yep, ESPN is being outrageously shady with this Clark snub because their entire rationale is fundamentally flawed from the start. Let's be real, winning a championship is unequivocally a team endeavor. No single player, no matter how transcendent, single-handedly carries a squad to a title all by themselves. That's precisely why championship rings are awarded to entire teams, not individual players. And yet somehow, Clark leading Iowa, a team that wasn't exactly stacked with talent, all the way to the finals, doesn't count for anything in their twisted logic. That single feat alone should tell you everything you need to know about her exceptional individual talent and leadership.
There was a ranking of the top 10 basketball players of all time put out by ESPN, put out by SportsCenter, and guess what? Not all of them have championship. Okay, so you just really honestly can't make this up, as it seems like the goalpost for the best college basketball player has shifted as Caitlin Clark.
That's absolutely right. ESPN had a gripe with Clark because of rings, right? Well, it turns out they don't seem to have the same rigid standard when it comes to someone who isn't Caitlin Clark. The double standard is glaring.
The reason that they removed Caitlin Clark from the conversation was because she does not have a championship. I just found a 4-year-old video from SportsCenter/ESPN where they did rank the top 10 college basketball players of all time. 6 of them are men, 4 of them are women, and get this, 3 of the men did not have any sort of championship ring.
The supposed reason Caitlin Clark was deliberately removed from the top tier of their rankings, no college championship ring, that was their flimsy justification, plain and simple. But here's the kicker. Someone just unearthed a 4-year-old video from SportsCenter on ESPN, no less, ranking the top 10 college basketball players of all time, 6 men, 4 women. And guess what? 3 of those players in their own top 10 list didn't have a championship ring. The sheer fact that ESPN is shamelessly using this no rings argument as the primary reason to knock Caitlin Clark out of the top conversation is beyond ridiculous. It's straight up, undeniable hypocrisy. They're applying different rules for different players, and the bias is impossible to ignore.
Number 5 on our top 10 college basketball players of all time, Oscar Robertson. Scored in each of his 3 seasons. He played average over 15 rebounds a game for his career, amassed 79 career double-doubles.
Okay, so this guy, no national championship.
Can you actually believe this? Their 4th pick for the best college athlete of all time doesn't have a ring, but suddenly it's the ultimate disqualifier for Clark? It's transparently absurd. As long as Caitlin Clark is conveniently out of the picture, ESPN and the mainstream media feel free to elevate virtually anyone else, even a proverbial 70-year-old janitor, into their elite rankings. It's almost as if they have a predetermined agenda with Clark and it's never going to stop. They only seem interested in using her immense popularity to promote other players while simultaneously diminishing her own achievements.
Anyway, it was such a weird clickbaity on her. What the heck, ESPN?
The mainstream media has been disrespecting Caitlin Clark practically since her debut, and it's clear they are back at it, doubling down on their biased narrative. However, Rachel Demita has completely dismantled and exposed their top player ranking as nothing more than a trashy marketing gimmick, meticulously bringing all the receipts to back up her claims. And to cap it all off, Clark has already firmly consolidated her status as the leading women's athlete in the WNBA, and that is something the fans, the real audience, will never forget, no matter how hard the media tries to spin a different story. They can manipulate rankings, but they can't erase the impact Caitlin Clark is having on the game. Never forget
That I think that Caitlin Clark deserves every single award that she has won this season, whether it be in the WNBA season. What she has done is so special and so well deserving, and that's why all of this noise around it, I can't even imagine what it's like being in her head.
So what's your take on this whole situation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more hard-hitting basketball updates. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.